The first of 4 2024 season DLC packs is just arriving right now on Le Mans Ultimate. Now, in this pack, we have 2 new hypercars and also a new circuit. And those of you who watch our channel regularly, especially on ACC, will know that we love a track guide here at Traxion. So we thought, why not do the same on LMU? And it gives us an excuse as well to show you some of this new content. Following the free edition of the BMW M Hybrid V8, this marks the first paid DLC pack to be made available for the still in early access LMU. For £9.99, you get the Lamborghini SC63 hypercar and the no longer wingless Peugeot 9X8 in 2024 spec, but perhaps the most exciting inclusion of all is the beautiful Imola circuit. Now, for those of you who want to commit to lots of future content early, you can also buy the 2024 Season Pass, which is going to cost you £39.99. Basically, the Season Pass includes 4 packs. This pack, which is pack number 1, and then 3 more packs in future, which are also going to contain new cars and new circuits. Now, each of these 4 packs has 1 circuit. So this one's got Imola. We can also expect Qatar, Interlagos, and Kota at some point, because those are the new additions to the 2024 WEC calendar. In terms of cars, pack 2 is going to contain 2 more new hypercars. So by the power of deduction, that's probably going to be the Isotta Fraschini and the Alpine. And then packs 3 and 4 are actually going to contain 7 new GT3 cars, finally bringing the class to LMU. Now, I do think it is kind of weird that the Season Pass DLC actually costs more than the base game itself right now, considering that, there's quite a lot more content in the base game than in this DLC pack. Of course, the game's still early access, and I think the price will probably rise in time, to be honest, but still, it's a bit weird paying more for a DLC than you actually pay for the game. I should say as well, before we jump in, a big thank you to Motorsport Games and Studio 397 for sending us this slightly early. Right, I've yabbered on long enough. I think it's time to move on to the track guide. Now, I am going to be taking this new Lamborghini SC63 around its home venue, Imola, like I'm doing right now. Just feels appropriate. And I'm going to be doing it on the completely default stock setup, so no, brake bias changes, TC adjustments, anything. I just want you to be able to pick this up and give it a go yourself without touching anything, and then give yourself a Laptime Targets to try and chase. Actually, there is one change I'm making, and that's the fuel. I'm taking it down from 100% to 10%, just to give it a kind of qualifying simulation feel. And I'm also going to be running on a saturated surface, so that gives you pretty good grip levels as well to try and set a quick lap time. Oh, and also, track limits are definitely on strict, so there's going to be no questions there. The lap is going to be legal, therefore everything you see is going to be possible no matter what your track limit settings are. I'm driving terribly in this race, so why don't we jump out of this and head to the track guide. Head flat out towards Tamburello, straight-lining the subtle curves as you do so. Spotting your braking point here is tricky, given the speed and the curved braking zone, but try not to enter from all the way over to the right, simply because it's very easy to drop a wheel on the grass and lose the car. Just after the 200 meter board, but before you reach the service road on your right, brake hard and in a straight line, heading towards the Italian curbing with your right front wheel. Again, just watch you don't quite stray onto the grass. Roll off the brake in 3rd gear and turn in just as you reach the end of that curb, placing your left front all the way up on the teeth and being careful not to go too far over and trigger track limits. The key is to keep your right wheel on the circuit side of the main white line that runs along the edge of the whole track, something that will be a common theme around here. As soon as I crest the apex, I squeeze back on the throttle pedal and quickly throw the car to the right, using the weight transfer to carry the speed whilst maintaining a tight line. It's the same rules for this curb, only this time it's the right side up on the teeth, and the left side staying within the white line for track limits. Modulate your throttle as you ride the curb to control oversteer and keep the car far enough over to the right on exit. This opens up the entry to the left-hander, which you can now attack at full throttle if you got the line right. The same curb rules apply, inside wheel on the teeth, outside wheel circuit side of the white line. Open out your steering on exit, drifting onto the curb with your right wheel. Now this is where I'm going to switch to showing you another lap. Basically, on my best lap of the session, I had a messy run through the first sector, so what I just showed you was a faster and cleaner one instead. The Villeneuve chicane requires bravery, precision, control, and most of all, patience. Mount the Italian curb on approach with your right hand wheel. Brake between the 100 metre and 50 metre boards, which in all honesty is tricky to spot. It's about halfway down the curb, but the more laps you do, the easier it'll be to judge. Shift down to 4th and trail brake in towards the curb on your left. Now if you don't know what trail braking actually is, you can watch our full trail braking guide by clicking on the link on screen now. It's the same story here with curb positioning, the main difference being that this corner is basically still a braking zone for the right-hander. I'd recommend touching the throttle pedal briefly as you mount the curb in order to stabilise the car. To be honest, I didn't even realise I was doing this until I looked at the inputs afterwards. It must have been a subconscious need for a little bit more balance. You should be on the left-hand side of the road here if you've gotten the first part right. Then, as you shift down from 4th to 3rd, move your car towards the apex on the right, rolling off the brake pedal. Right front wheel on the teeth, left on the circuit side of the white line as is now tradition, and get back on the power to drive yourself out of the corner. Ideally, you can get on the power as you hit the apex, but on this occasion, I had to delay the throttle a tiny bit because I carried a touch too much speed into the corner. You should naturally run out to the left curb with your left wheel, then haul yourself immediately back to the right to prepare for braking into Tosa. This is one of the trickiest braking zones on the circuit, so easy to lock up, to run wide, to lose the rear, and it doesn't take much to put you off the road and into the wall. I tend to get hard on the brakes just before the 50 metre board, shifting down to 1st and slowly releasing brake pressure as I begin to turn in towards the apex. I keep trail braking all the way up until about halfway around the corner, nice and tight towards the white line, and then shift back up to 2nd, instigating that tiny extra bit of rotation. Then, quickly get back on the throttle to bring the front around. Watch for oversteer here as you power out though, being careful not to over-rotate your steering wheel. By getting the speed right and being patient on the exit, you should be able to straighten out your steering wheel relatively quickly as you get back on the power, letting the traction control do its thing and running all the way out onto the curb on the right hand side if need be. Stick to the right up the hill and prepare for the high-speed Piratella. Brake hard in a straight line just before the 50 metre board. Change down to 3rd and turn in soon after. As you head for the apex, quickly ease off the brake and let the car roll towards the inside, placing your front left on the curb. You can use the usual amount of curb should you choose, but more curb early might end up costing you extra speed as you run wide, so it really does come down to feel. The main thing here is getting on the power nice and early, using the downforce to drag yourself through to the exit curb on the right. Bring the car back onto the circuit and head straight over to the left, shortening the run to Acque Minerali. This corner takes a long time to find your speed and rhythm on. It's about commitment, braking technique, and balance. At the start, it will feel like two separate corners, but once you get up to speed, the key to fast lap times is treating the first right-hander as part of the braking zone for the second. Start over to the left, but don't run all the way onto the curb, as this will unsettle the car. Just kiss it with your front left, and then start turning into the corner before the Italian curb ends, and before you hit the brakes. Now this one is all about trail braking technique. Aim to cross the inside curb in the usual fashion, up on the teeth without going over the white line, and open out your steering so that you end up with your left wheel over the outside curb. Basically, as soon as you're able to straighten up the car here, that's your cue to turn in for the uphill right, in second gear, still on the brakes at this point. As you glide towards the apex, finally roll fully off that brake pedal and get back on the power before you even get there. Get your front right up on the teeth, front left circuit side of the white line, and run all the way out to the left-hand exit curb, using this one in the same way as all the others. And that's you through the challenging Acque Minerali. Practice certainly makes perfect on this one, so you may have to start slower and build up. If you're still struggling, just watch this guide a couple of times and pay close attention to the braking inputs. A quick reminder with all of this track guide advice is that this is for a qualifying lap to show you what can be done legally with new tyres and clean air, not what you should attempt to do every single lap in a race, for example. On a longer run, I wouldn't be so close to the track limits and the limits of the car on every corner, so don't be concerned if you find yourself generally having to brake that little bit earlier and carrying a little less speed through the corners. Anyway, Variante Alta next. Brake just before the curb starts on the left, shifting down to second and aiming to put your right front all the way up on the yellow curb. As soon as you cross it, maintaining brake pressure, shift down to first and switch back to the left, again putting your front tyre straight over that yellow curb. This one is lower than the first, so it rarely unsettles your car, instead allowing you to get back on the power nice and early. Open up the steering and use the exit curb. Track limit rules are the usual story here as well. The curbs at Variante Alta can be a lottery, so feel free to experiment. You might just find a different line with a better rhythm over the curbs that will help you go quicker, or even just be more consistent. This is just what worked for me with this particular car and setup combo. Stay left as you run down the hill and prepare for Rivazza. It's a really challenging, steep braking zone, so for me, the key is to use the right-hand kink before to haul the car all the way over to the right, so that you can brake in as straight a line as possible before the 100 metre board, using a little of the Italian stripy curb, if you're confident of keeping the car stable and avoiding slipping onto the grass. Change down to second gear, and aim to put your left front on the Italian inside curb. I actually missed it slightly on this lap, carrying a little bit too much speed in, so probably lost a tenth or so. The camber makes it tricky. You have to be patient on the exit to not run out too wide and invalidate both this lap and the next. Use the outside curb in the usual way and instantly get ready for the final corner. It comes at you pretty quickly. Staying in second, trail brake and turn in as soon as the extra section of outside curb ends, putting your left front on the Italian curb on the inside. Get on the power nice and early as you hit your apex, opening out the steering and using the exit curb. If you feel the car bottoming out, you probably have gone too far and it will trigger some strict track limits, so give yourself a tiny bit more leeway than usual. Power towards the finish line, straight lining the kink as you end your hot lap around the Imola circuit. Now let's show you the full lap. Well, a botched full lap with the better first sector anyway. So there we have it. Imola is a really rewarding circuit when you get it right, because as you can probably tell, it's so tricky to nail that one perfect lap. So many variables can massively swing your lap times, whether that's weight transfer, specific lines over curbs, or just braking technique. It's just difficult, but that might be one of the things that makes it such an enjoyable challenge. This is the part of the video where I post some Laptime targets for you to chase. Now these are just a bit of fun to give you something to aim at, but I do know it's a bit tricky given the variables. So for reference, these targets are for this exact combo, the new Lambo on the default setup with low fuel. I reckon a more competitive car choice on a custom setup will see times tumble well into the high 20s. My lap here was a 131.9, although with more time on this combo and an optimal lap, I'd be hoping to break into the 131.5s. The pros, or aliens, would be looking, I reckon, at a 131 dead. I'm going to set the Pro-Am target time at a 134 dead, and for AMs, aim to break the 137.5 barrier. So with all of that being said, here is, for the first time on LMU, a 10-second summary. Careful under braking for Tamburello, Italian curb, teeth line, teeth line, teeth line, Villeneuve requires patience. Trail braking to Tosa, Italian curb, commitment through Piratella, Italian curb, treat Acque Minerali as one corner, Italy, halt the curbs at Alta, Italy, precision through Rivazza, Italy, watch for track limits and exit. So hopefully you found all of that useful, maybe even enjoyable, and you're going to be able to pick up Imola and give it a good go straight away. Obviously the Lambo's probably not going to be competitive in too many online races, but it is a lot of fun to hustle around Imola. It's such a tricky track to get right with those huge curbs, the very strict track limits. There's so many areas of this circuit where you can find time by essentially just sending it and hoping, so you can't really do that on a consistent basis, but for one-off hot laps, you know, you begin to learn quite quickly where you can really push and where you have to just be a little bit patient and take it easy. I didn't obviously manage to nail one single good lap. I had to end up combining two different bits just because we're quite time limited. And it's just difficult, and I'm not an alien. Anyway guys, I'd love to hear what you think of Le Mans Ultimate in its current state. What do you think of the DLC and also the DLC pricing? Do you think it's appropriate? Do you think it's a bit harsh? Oh no. Oops. Managed to stay ahead of the van wall at least, although that's probably not saying much. Also, let us know down in the comments, guys, how you got on with this combo, what sort of lap times you were managing, and whether you want to see more Le Mans Ultimate track guides and other content in the future. Subscribe to the channel for more racing game content and to see those videos when they actually come out. And of course, head over to our Discord server as well, where you can join the paddock, join in the conversation. And until I see you next time, thanks for watching, and have a great day.